again. I think you're used to it. But if you're new, I'm Jam, Joel, but you can call me Jam. Araso, if you don't know, that's Korean for okay, I get it, I understand. And although that is a focal point of what I'm doing is based on me getting life and relationships. I'm not a know-it-all, but I have learned through a lot of experiences and other things that pertain to that type of insight. And I'm just sharing with you what I believe is very helpful in these categories. So, as I have for the past several videos, I like to start with an introduction song. The song goes like this. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, every time I feel like I sing it a little different, but that's okay. Anyways, all right, so we're kind of wanting to give the ladies a little more attention in this, and so hopefully this works out in that way. So for my sisters, you're not forgotten. And I mean, all of these videos are for both either men or women, but like I said, overall, I'll give you my theme for what I try to do in some ways. Chivalry isn't dead, it's reborn. And I think if you think about it a little bit, you kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to say. There's a portion that goes to both men and women and how they connect with each other, of course. So I got this idea yesterday. I was spending some time with a niece of mine, and she's really tough. And I thought, wow, like this girl, she's rough and tough. And but as I examined it more, I don't spend a whole lot of time with her, but I mean, there's enough there. But I realized that there's also a delicacy to her. And going up through my life, so my brother and I, we would wrestle daily. And we had some intense wrestling matches and go at it. And there was a level of intensity and toughness that definitely was displayed. Like, I remember there was a few times he was like, "Why don't you give up?" And I'm like, "No, go ahead and break whatever you're gonna break. It's okay. Like, I could take it." And so, I mean, I had that experience with, wow, like this is what it's like to be tough. And I mean, I've had my moments too, but seeing her, I seen that there was this really toughness. And over my years, I've seen that plenty of women that have been strong and tough. And I've also seen, as I try to approach them in some ways, that I'm like, man, you're strong. You should handle this in a certain way. I seen the responses that I was like, wow, like that's not the full story. They're also delicate. And so understanding that as far as women, like within yourselves, like, wow, like this is who I am. Not just this strong woman, but this delicate side. Because men need to be vulnerable in some ways with humility, and women as well. From the man's standpoint, there's something that men appreciate when a woman embraces that delicacy. But also, I think men sometimes don't understand how to approach women with the idea that you're a strong woman, I need to approach you in this way, but also you're delicate and you need to be considered and protected. Um, I remember there was this phrase that a special person told me. She told me that she was a dandelion. And I always thought that was a really interesting way to phrase it. Dandelion is something you find, and if you're not careful with it, it starts to, you know, fall apart or whatever it does. And but it's really a sense of, it needs a sense of delicacy and care. And so I realized that this is an important aspect to how we function and communicate as far as men and women in relationships. Kind of getting back to my premise is that women, plenty of them, have this dual aspect to them of strong, but they also have this delicate way that wants to be cared for. And in that, I believe women also want a man that is strong. But how does that look? Not, it doesn't necessarily mean a man has to be physically. I mean, I think of the idea of, I mean, most know the story of David and Goliath. Goliath, I'm sure, was a lot bigger than David, as the story says. But David had a form of strength that I think that's the concept of what's desired. David had a strength of heart, of character, of a willingness to put himself into danger to protect those that he cared about, to consider this is what's important and this what needs to be fought for. And I think that's the kind of strength that women yearn for in their men. Also, women have to be careful of not putting down their men when men are trying to find that strength. I think it's a difficult process at times. I mean, although women are delicate, men are vulnerable in certain ways as well. Sometimes it's not always that they're feeling that confidence and clarity in every situation. In regards to women and their approach, of course, you want somebody that's strong, but make sure it's in the right ways, and make sure also that it's not in a way that it interferes with how they approach you. Are they going to be intimidating and not be willing to consider you in your delicacy? Or are they going to consider you in the full way that you need to be considered? And as well as men, embracing that strength of heart and character and what's really important, what needs to be fought for. And so in that, I just wanted to touch on this concept because I think it is a very important, this idea of how these things complement each other and come together, and what a woman, I believe, hopes for. I think what men hope for as well. I think generally speaking, generally of course, men hope for to bring out that knight in shining armor, heart and idea, to step up. But also, I believe women have to sometimes help, but also not get in the way of what's being done within them to get to that place. This is something I want to share with the men that are watching this. I think men need to take courage and take heart to embrace that strength and be that man that they need to be. And I know sometimes it's even through the way that a woman might be approaching him or you that you need to take that strength. Sometimes take those blows and allow the situation to settle, and then recognize the delicacy of who the woman is, because sometimes women act in a certain moment, but really there's some delicate moment within them that needs to be addressed. And like I said, I can't speak for everybody. I'm not trying to give therapy. I'm just sharing an overall idea that I think is important. And like I said, having that time with my little niece was really sweet and beautiful. And I was like, wow, this little one is, she's intense for sure. But like I said, I've definitely heard and have seen the delicacy of the little softness that she has as a girl. And I've also seen it through time in plenty of different scenarios, going from, my grandmothers to my mother to some beautiful women in my family and friends and someone that I've loved really deeply. And so I've seen it over time and how that strength is such an asset, and also how that delicacy is so complemented when it's not hidden and shown. But like I said, I mean, hopefully the whole situation needs to be healthy. That's why it's important to consider who you're connecting with. And that's why also who to be safe with in your delicacy. If you can't be safe with that person in your delicacy, I think that's an issue. And again, I'm not trying to, there's some relationships that just need to be worked out, hopefully, and that's the hope. But some relationships that aren't, you know, that you haven't tied with, haven't made that full, legal and covenant commitment with, you might need to reconsider if that makes sense for you. So again, that's my point in this topic. I think it's such a beautiful thing to have that strength and delicacy in one person, in who a woman is. And again, I think men should nurture that, should protect that, should consider that, should love the woman for that, and understand that, sometimes you're not always getting the delicacy, or sometimes you're getting the warrior woman that might come out, and that's okay too. But understand that the context of the fullness of who this woman is and how that needs to be considered. And also, again, for men, if that's the right person for you, maybe that's not the right balance. Maybe there's another person that has a little bit of a different balance of, strong warrior woman and delicacy that you need to say, hey, this works better for me. But I just wanted to open our minds and hearts to that idea. So with that being said, I hope this kind of gave some clarity. I know overall we kind of look at people and think like, yeah, that kind of makes sense overall. But when we really think deeply about, if I really see that in this way, I think it'll help me. Like I said, that dandelion, if I really understand and see, hey, maybe I need to consider this dandelion and treat her in that dandelion way, I think there could be a lot of beautiful benefit that could come from my approach in that. Yeah, so again, I hope this is helpful as I do all the things I share. And I hope that you have an amazing week. It is almost Friday. So have a good one. Kamau. Thank you. That means thank you. Okay. Take care.